Hey guys, this is Ms. Hardison. Today we're going to be reviewing Chapter 1. This is the study guide. We started off the chapter with absolute values, so looking at number 1. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So the absolute value of negative 22 means that it is 22 spaces away from 0. So your absolute value is always the positive of it. So it is positive 22. The absolute value of 6.43. So the absolute value is the positive. Even if it is positive inside the absolute value, it is still just 6.43 away from 0. Okay. The next two, it wants us to say if it is less than, greater than, or equal to. So 4, and then the absolute value of negative 8. Well, the absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. So is 4 or 8 larger? 8 is larger, so we put the less than symbol. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7, and then negative 12. 7 is larger than negative 12, so it is greater than. Okay. The next one here, we have an addition rule. Integers being added. They do have the same sign. They're both negative. So same sign, add and keep. So you're going to add 6 and 11. That is 17, and then you keep the sign that was the same, so it's negative. Okay, the next two are subtraction. Anytime there's a subtraction problem, you do keep, change, change. So you keep your first number, you change your operation, and then you change the sign of the second number. So it is keep your 2, change subtraction to addition, and change negative 9 to positive 9. And then 2 plus 9 equals 11. Right, the next one, we're going to do keep, change, change. So it's negative 12 plus 6. We're adding, but they're different signs. So when you're adding with different signs, you actually subtract. So 12 minus 6 is 6, and then you have to look and see which one has a larger absolute value. The absolute value of negative 12 is 12, and the absolute value of 6 is 6. So negative is the larger absolute value. All right, pause the video and work number 3. Okay, looking at these. It is a subtraction problem, so it is still keep, change, change. Keep your 7, change it to addition, and 39 becomes negative 39. Adding with unlike signs, you actually subtract, so 39 minus 7 is 32, and then negative 39 has a larger absolute value, so it's negative. Right? Keep, change, change because it's subtraction. Keep your 14, change subtraction to addition, and change negative 2 to positive 2. 14 plus 2 is 16. The next one, adding, but they do not have the same sign, so you actually subtract. 16 minus 5 is 11, and then 16 has the larger absolute value, so our sign is negative. Now we're going to be moving into some that have decimals and fractions with the integers. So number 4, we're adding and they have the same sign. So your rule is add, and if they have the same signs, you add and keep. But it's a fraction, and in order to add these, they have to have common denominators. These do not have common denominators, so I'm going to multiply this to make it become an 18, and to do that I would multiply it by 2. You got to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2, so it's going to be negative 8 over 18 plus negative 23 over 18. Okay, I'm going to add the numerators, so 23 and 8. I'm going to add that. That's 11, so you should have gotten 31. Okay, so it's 31 over 18. And if it tells you to make it into, oh, don't forget your negative sign. If it tells you to make it into a mixed number, this is improper, so how many 18s would go into 31? That would be 1. And to figure out how many is left over, you're going to subtract 18 from 31. I have to borrow. That's a 3, and that's a 1. So you have 1, negative 1, and 13/18. Okay. This one is subtraction. So before I worry about common denominators, I need to go ahead and do my subtraction rules, which is keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep my 17 over 12. I'm going to change subtraction to addition, and I'm going to change negative 1/8 to positive 1/8. I have to find the common denominator between 8 and 12, so I'm going to go through the factors of 8 and the multiples of 8 and see if 12 has any of the same multiples. So 8, 16, 24, and then I know that 12 has a factor of 24. To get 12 to become a 24, I'm going to have to multiply by 2. To get 8 to become a 24, I'm going to have to multiply by 3. Remember that you multiply both the numerator and the denominator. 2 times 17, if I didn't know that math, I could come up here and math it. 2 times 7 is 14, carry your 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I have 34 over 24, plus 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 8 is 24. So that gives me, got to add them, so it's 37 over 24. 24 will go into 37 one time, and that leaves me with 13 left over. Number 6, adding with different signs, so that means I actually subtract it. Remember that when you are subtracting, you put the larger number on top and you line up the decimals if there's decimals. So I'm going to subtract it, have to borrow, that becomes an 8 and that becomes a 12. 12 minus 8 is 4, and then 8 minus 2 is 6. So it's 6.4. Then you still have to look and see which one has a larger absolute value. The 9.2 has the larger absolute value, so it's going to be positive 6.4. All right, you pause the video and do number 7 and number 8. Okay, number 7 is 2.86 minus 12.1. It is a subtraction problem, so we need to do keep, change, change. So we're going to keep 2.86. We're going to change subtraction to addition, and we're going to change positive 12.1 to negative 12.1. Now we can use our adding rules. Remember, Same sign, add and keep, different signs, and they are different signs because this one is positive and this one is negative. So different signs I subtract. When I use this rule, I'm just going to take the larger number and put it on top, and I'm going to subtract the smaller number. But remember that the decimals have to be lined up. So 2.86 has to be lined up here. In this blank spot, I'm going to put a 0. I cannot subtract a 6 from nothing, so I'm going to go over here and borrow. That became a 0, and that became a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. I can't subtract a 0 from an 8, so I'm going to go over here. That becomes a 1. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring your decimal down. And then we have 11 minus 2 is 9. Okay, so I've subtracted it. Now we have to decide which one has a larger absolute value. You can't just stop when you're done subtracting it. You have to say which one has a larger absolute value, 2.86 or negative 12.1. Negative 12.1 is further away from 0, so it has a larger absolute value. So the answer is negative. Okay, number 8. I'm adding, and it's the same sign. So same sign, add and keep. So I'm going to say 7.33 and 7.6. And remember, when you add, that you line up the decimals. In the blank spot, I put a placeholder. 3 plus 0 is 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. Bring down your decimal. And then 7 plus 7 is 14. So you add and then keep the sign. So it's negative 14.93. Number 9. Find the distance between negative 3.7 and negative 2.59. Write your answer as a decimal. So it says write your answer as a decimal. It gets specific. Find the distance. We've talked about those words before. Those words tell you that you need to subtract. Okay? You need to subtract them. So we're going to say negative 3.71 minus negative 2.59. Okay, I'm subtracting. I need to do keep, change, change. So I'm going to say keep, change, change. So I will keep negative 3.71, change subtraction to addition, and change negative 2.59 to positive 2.59. Adding with unlike signs, so I subtract. So 3.71 minus 2.59. Can't subtract that, so I have to borrow. That becomes a 6 and an 11. That's a 2. 6 minus 5 is a 1. Bring down your decimal. 3 minus 2 is 1. Distance cannot be negative, so it is just going to be positive 1.12. Okay, number 10. Why don't you go ahead and pause your screen and do number 10. Okay, looking at number 10, we are subtracting, but it is not a normal subtraction problem, so we need to do keep, change, change. So we're going to keep 12 and 2/5. We're going to change subtraction to addition. We're going to change positive 17 and 1/3 to negative 17 and 1/3. Adding with unlike signs, we're actually supposed to subtract, but before we can subtract, we have to have a common denominator. So the common denominator between 5 and 3 is going to be 15. To make this become a 15, I'm going to have to multiply it by 3, and I'm going to have to multiply this one by 5. So I'm going to end up with 12 and 6/15 and negative 17 and 5/15. So there's a couple of different ways I could do this. When I rewrite this, it's going to be 17 and 5/15 minus 12 and 6/15. We cannot subtract a 6 from a 5 here. So we're going to have to borrow. Okay? This is going to become a 16, and to make it a whole, because it still has to equal 17, it would be 15/15. But I have 5 extra, so I have to keep those also. So 15 plus the 5 would be 20/15. Now it still equals the same, and I can subtract it. 20 minus 6 is going to be 14/15, and then 16 minus 12 is 4. Which one has the larger absolute value? That's going to be 17, so it is negative 4 and 14/15. You could have also changed these to improper fractions and then subtracted it. This one would have been 186/15, and this one would have been negative 260/15. And then when you subtracted 260 from 186, you would have gotten negative 74/15, which would still equal negative 4 and 14/15. So either method would work. This just dealt with smaller numbers. So if you can see this method, this one's easier. All right, number 11. We have keep, change, change. So we're going to keep our negative 2.9, change subtraction to addition, and change negative 1.95 to positive 1.95. Adding with unlike signs, so we're actually going to subtract. So 2.9 minus 1.95. You cannot subtract 5 from nothing, so we have to borrow. That becomes an 8. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. Can't subtract 8 from 9, so we got to borrow. 9 minus 18 is 9. Bring down your placeholder, and 1 minus 1 is 0. Which one has a larger absolute value? Because you still got to look at that. That's the negative 2.9, so my answer is negative 0.95. All right, number 12. It's an addition problem. They do not have the same sign, so you're actually subtracting them. But before you can subtract them, they have to have a common denominator. The common denominator between 4 and 8 is 8. To get that to become an 8, we have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. 2 times 7 is negative 14/8 plus 5/8. Again, adding with unlike signs, so I'm going to subtract. 14 minus 5 is negative 9/8. How many 8s will go into 9? That would be negative 1 and 1/8. All right, number 13, it says order from least to greatest. Least to greatest. And when they order it, they want you to use these numbers to order it, not what we find them to be. Okay, so the absolute value of 4.5 is 4.5. That one's negative 3.6. That one is 2. The absolute value of negative 1.8 is positive 1.8. And then 1.2. So the least number is going to be the one that doesn't have the absolute value. That's negative 3.6. Now I'm just going to mark it out when I get done with it. Alright, now we have a 4.5. That one's not the least. A 2, a 1.8, and a 1.2. The smaller number between these two is going to be 1.2. 1 and 2/10. Okay, between these two, 1.8 is smaller. Then between 2 and 4.5, 2 is smaller. And then, oh, I didn't write the absolute value there. And the absolute value of 4.5 goes here. Because remember, you have to put the actual problem. That's in order from least to greatest. Alright, number 14, it's a subtraction problem. You should do keep, change, change. Negative 6.54, change subtraction to addition, and change negative 3.28 to positive 3.28. You are adding with different signs, so you actually subtract it. That's the rule. So we're going to say 6.54 minus 3.28. Same sign, add and keep, different signs, subtract, and take the sign of the larger absolute value. You can't subtract 8 from 4, so you're going to borrow. That becomes a 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. 4 minus 2 is 2. Bring down your decimal. And 6 minus 3 is 3. Which one has a larger absolute value? That's going to be the 6. So it is negative 3.26. Okay, here we have 12 and 2/5 minus 17 and 1/3. It is not a normal subtraction problem, so I'm going to do keep, change, change. So we keep our 12 and 2/5, change subtraction to addition, and change positive 17 and 1/3 to negative 17 and 1/3. Adding with unlike signs, I actually subtract them. I cannot subtract them yet because they do not have a common denominator. So I'm going to make their common denominator, oh hey, we've already worked this problem. It is number 10, and our answer is negative 4 and 14/15. So we don't have to do that again. Okay, go ahead and flip it over. Okay, this one, it's subtraction, so you're going to do keep, change, change. You go ahead and pause the video and solve it. Okay, 5/8 plus 7/8. 7 and 5 is 12/8. 8 will go into 12 one time with 4/8 left over. 4/8 can be simplified to 1 and 1/2 because 4 will divide into both of these. So divide both of them by 4 and you get 1 and 1/2. Number 17, it already has common denominators of 11, so we're adding with the same sign. You just add and keep. So you have negative 7 plus negative 15, which is negative 22 over 11. How many 11s will go into 22? That is negative 2. Okay. Next one, we have different forms here. So because these are already in decimal form, this one we will go ahead and change to decimal form. To make 2/5 become a decimal, so it's going to be -4 plus 6 point something. Couple of ways you can do it. You can make that become a tenth and see what that number is. So times 2 would make that become a tenth. Times 2 there would make it become a 4. Or you could just divide it. So if I came over here, since I have some room, and I said 2 divided by 5, 5 would not go into 2, but it would go into 20.4 times. So that is 6.4 plus -2.7. When I am looking at this, addition is commutative, so I could technically rewrite this to where it would say -4 plus -2.7 plus 6.4. I use the commutative property to swap these two because this is easier math. So I can math this. -4 plus -2 is -6 and then just 0.7 and then plus 6.4. These do not have the same sign, so I would subtract them. So I'll just say 6.7 minus 6.4, and that is 0.3. So, and then this one has a larger absolute value, so it's -0.3. Now, if you guys changed them all to fractions instead, you would have gotten -3/10. All right, 19. Find the distance between -1 1/3 and 12 and 7/12. So then it says to write your answer as a fraction or mixed number. Find the distance always means to subtract. So you're going to say -1 1/3 minus 12 and 7/12. You're subtracting, so you need to do keep, change, change. So I'm going to have -1 1/3 plus -12 and 7/12. I cannot add these. It does say add, so we would add and keep the sign because they're the same signs. But I cannot do that yet because they don't have common denominators. Oh, y'all couldn't see that, sorry. I can't add these because they do not have common denominators. So I have to make the 3 become a 12 if possible. And I can do that by multiplying by 4. Remember, you have to multiply the numerator and the denominator. So it's -1 and 4/12 plus -12 and 7/12. Add and keep the sign. So 1 plus 12 is 13, and we're keeping the sign. 4 plus 7, 11/12. And it's negative. All right. Number 20, go ahead and do keep, change, change. Some of these problems should be looking familiar to you. Pause the video and finish 20. Okay, so we need to do keep, change, change twice. So we'll do keep, change, change here. So keep our 2 2/3. Change subtraction to addition and change positive 1/6 to negative 1/6. Now we're going to keep the negative 1/6, change and change. So plus 1 1/3. I'm going to say go ahead and it's addition, so we can use the commutative property to move it around. I'm going to swap these two so that my common denominators are next to each other. So I'm going to say 2 2/3 plus 1 1/3 plus negative 1/6. Okay, so 2 plus 1 is 3 3/3. 3 3/3 is actually 4 plus negative 1/6. And again, there's multiple ways that you can do this. This is just the way that my brain saw it. I cannot subtract 1/6 from no fraction here. So I'm going to change this back to 3, but then to make it have a common denominator, it's going to be 6 6. So these two things are equal. I'm just changing its form so that I'm able to subtract these. Okay, so now I can say 6 minus 1 because they're not the same sign. So I'm going to have 3 5 6. And it is positive because 4 has a larger absolute value. Okay? Go ahead and do number 21. It's subtraction, so you need to do the keep, change, change. So keep, change, change. Negative 1 3/4 plus 8 1/3. I did keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep it now. It's positive 8 1/3. Change, change. So plus 4 1/4. Addition, you can use the commutative property to move like things around. So I'm going to move my two that have common denominators next to each other. Negative 1 3/4 plus 4 1/4 plus 8 1/3. Adding but different signs, so I subtract it. You could go ahead and make them improper if you see that better. So 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3, negative 7/4 plus 4 times 4 is 16 plus 1 is 17/4 plus 8 1/3. Okay, well, adding with unlike signs, I subtract. So 17 minus 7 is 10/4. Plus, I can go ahead and do this. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25/3. Now I got to have a common denominator. Between 4 and 3, that would be 12. So this has to be multiplied by 3, and this one has to be multiplied by 4. 3 times 10 is 30 over 12. 25 times 4 is 100 over 12. And then I can add them. 100 plus 30 is 130 over 12. Um, 12's into 130. Well, 12 will go into 13. 1. I'm going to divide it down here. 130 divided by 12. 12 will go into 13 one time. Subtract. 12 won't go into 1, so I'm going to bring down my 0. 12 will also not go into 10. I'm going to bring down another 0. 12 will go into 100. I can just say 10 times with 10 twelfths left, which would be 10 and 5/6. Okay. Number 22. This one is subtraction, but it's a normal subtraction problem, so I would just subtract this, and it's in parentheses, so I can do it first. So I can say 5.8 minus 4.1. 8 minus 1 is 7. Bring down your decimal. 5 minus 4 is 1. So I have 2.1 plus 1.7. Just add those. So 2.1 plus 1.7 is 3.8. Okay, what is the, let's go down to number 23, what is the commutative property? It is a property used in addition where you can change the order of the numbers. And this is only done in addition. It is not done in subtraction. All right. Then what is the associative property? It is a property used in addition where you can make different groupings. Okay, and then 25 and 26 is just your integer rule song. So what are the rules for adding? So here you would write same sign, add and keep, different signs, subtract, and take the sign of the larger absolute value. What do you do first when subtracting integers? You're going to say keep, change, change. Get this signed for plus 5 points added on your test. You need to have this page and the other sheet completed. Thanks, guys. Have a good day, and don't forget to study.